Good afternoon. I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order, February 1st. I'd like to call a roll. Everyone's present. Yeah, we got everyone here. Ms. Terry's here. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mr. Kluwart's going to give it the invocation followed by the pledge.
Everybody, please stand. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for getting us through the first phase of the high waters of the Mississippi River and everything that's been done to protect everybody's families and homes. And Lord, we still have some spring coming down, so let's protect us through and carry us through the hurricane season this year once more. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Ms. Heather. Move on to number 4, the acceptance of minutes of the January 11th, 2016 meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Lambert, second by Mr. Johnny. Motion passed. No chairman's report. Number 6, the drainage report. Mr. Rue.
I don't have any handouts tonight. It's only been a 3 weeks since the last report, and we have not had any substantial changes in the status of the project since then, with the exception of the fact that the report from Stewart Engineering on the weir has come in and is under review right now. We will get with the appropriate council member, Mr. Cagnotti, and a few others, and go through the results of that report before we bring it back to the Drainage Commission next meeting. I did get a report from the Corps of Engineers, and they're having a little problem at the Corps. They lost a couple people in regulatory suddenly, and now they're having to go back and pull a lot of their records and see exactly where they were on some of these permits, and that's being, one of them is specifically the Bird Island ditch. It should have been received by now, and they're having to go back and review her files and see exactly what happened on that. So they apologize, and they're trying to get through it as quick as possible. It is probably affecting a couple other permits they don't know right now, but they will keep me informed on what's going on. We did meet again, or I talked to the potential owner of the property behind Astroland today. They're very close to passing the act of sale, and as soon as they do, he'll be glad to meet with us and work out a deal on the property behind Astroland so we can proceed with that project. That is not a permitting issue on that. It's just a matter of getting the property in our name so we can proceed with that project. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
If you don't mind, let's start at the hit. Mr. Satterley?
Yeah, I don't have anything, Mr. Rue, thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Yeah, I do have one quick question. On the Astroland project, or the bill of sale, when you say it's close, what's your definition of close?
The only thing the potential owner told me today, he said, we're working out the final arrangements. He said it's real close. He didn't give me a time. I can, pressure him a little bit more to give me a definite date. He just said it's very close. He's working out the final details.
Yeah, because, some people very close is a lot different than other people. Right. So I would like some type of time frame.
I will try
to. It's been dragging on for quite a while.
I would try to see if he'll give me a date, by a certain date, that we can discuss our project and trying to get it transferred over.
I mean, have they at least agreed on a purchase price?
I think so. But again, I'm going through the potential owner on this, and he did not give me a lot of details.
Okay.
Mr. Aaron?
I have no questions.
Mr. Kluwart?
Yeah, Bill, quick note. Can you give me an update on where we stand on the permit for the Law Ridge levee?
As I understand, and again, I talked to the Corps personally today, just about everything that is needed for review is at the Corps. They are coming back with a few questions on specifics, on clarification of a couple items, but they're minor. We have the feeling, when Jake talked to the Corps and I talked to the Corps today, that everything's positive. We don't have a lot of negative comments anymore. We resolved most of those comments that was given through the comment period. I cannot give you any more exact timeline on it because the Corps would not give us one. So again, it's we kind of at their, control, under their control right now. We're going to try to work it out as much as possible, get some a little bit more clarification on it, but that's all the clarification I get from the Corps right now.
So in other words, they got a couple minor clarifications. They coming back to us, or did they come back to us yet? Or to GSA, or
Jake
to
can
PLD?
can
or
handle some of
whomever?
this. It's a minor detail, as I understand. Jake?
Yep. My name is Jake Lambert. I'm engineer with Glenn Shaheen and Associates. We're working with the Pontchartrain Levee District and Ascension Parish on the Law Ridge Levee Extension Project. To answer your question, I spoke with Mr. Mark Hogan at the Department of Natural Resources today, who is our permit lead. They take the project through the joint permit application process, and they divide it through the state agency and then the Corps, which is the federal side. They have all the information we sent them in December. He just posted it on the website last week. So all of the agencies have the information. It took him about a month to go through what we sent him. It's a big stack of information. He said that we have addressed all of the public concerns, and that he does expect some minor comments, just additional clarification, but generally he was very positive, and he expects, he couldn't give me a date, but he said a few weeks to a month before we get any additional information back. We'll respond as quickly as possible and get it back to him, and then hopefully all the review period will be over.
So basically, like it's February 1st, he posted the stuff, and it took him a month to post the stuff.
Yes, sir.
February 1st, it's
Yes,
got
sir.
a month before we're going to get any questions back.
Actually, I got a comment today from him, so we're going to address
So
that
then,
one. We'll get it
we
back.
gotta respond to that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. I'll get a response back to him in a few days, and I'll copy the board.
What's the normal cycle of responses?
It depends. Like last time, it took us several months to get the responses back because it was the initial comments.
I
and
know.
We made some alignment revisions, but these comments should be very simple, just seeking additional information or additional calculations or verification. Basically, what they've told us is they understand the project. They are generally supportive of the project, and a lot of that's due to the efforts that Mr. Bill and our team have put forth throughout this 4.5, 5 year long process of
Right.
keeping them involved. But they're very understanding of the project now, and so we've just got to provide them with the information that they need so that they can feel confident that when they issue a permit that they're going to be protected and covered, and that we're not going to be causing any adverse impact to obviously we're going to be helping the people that are protected by the levee, but not causing adverse impact to the
So
folks that are
within
outside.
that work that's already accomplished going forward for the permit and submitting everything, and in addition to the public comments that we went through for a couple months,
Yes, sir.
then the alignment's there,
Yes, sir.
the geotech's there,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
And what about land acquisition?
Uh,
We run a
I had a
parallel
meeting.
path?
I had a meeting today with the attorney for the Pontchartrain Levee District. We've got all 40 some odd title abstracts that had to be reviewed, and we're going to give that information to our surveyor, and they're going to be going out in the field. We kind of wanted to wait for the high water to go down and also the hunting season to be over. But they're going to actually go out and physically survey the boundary, do some boundary surveys, and begin preparing right-of-way maps that will be used for the property acquisition. Correct. So once that information is together, by that time we ought to be real close. If we don't have a permit, in the next, I'm hoping, few months, we'll have all the right-of-way maps, and we'll also have be prepared to begin the property acquisition.
Will all the landowners be notified?
Yes, anytime we've
During the
gone
survey
on their
and
property,
all that.
we've provided them with notifications. Additionally, the next hurdle that we have is gonna be working with the Corps to develop a mitigation plan. We all know one of the biggest issues of this project is the impacts that we have to the, you know, to the wetland, jurisdictional wetlands along the alignment of the project. It's about 40-something acres of impacts that we have, direct impacts, footprint, which is substantial.
But
And
you
we're
got
gonna
that, you
work
already
with
have
the-
that detailed out,
We
within 90%.
We've begun working, developing alternatives, and we're gonna very soon begin it's not a negotiation, but begin discussions with the Corps and making a presentation of here's how we wanna handle it, and there'll be some dialogue with them to develop that
So
plan.
that'll be after the permit is
That's
issued?
about to get cranked up. We want to get all the comments back to the Corps and make sure we all agreed on some of the responses to the comments, make sure that they were okay with it. It appears that that's the case now, so now we kind of got our alignment, got our corridor, have the impacts determined, and now we're going to start the mitigation plan development. So that'll be something that'll take a handful of months to get all that together, but we've already started working with some alternatives. So
Thank
we'll
you,
keep
sir.
you posted. If y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to call us.
All right.
Thank you.
Bill, I just only have one more. Pump number 7 from Marvin Road.
In the bid process, it's being advertised.
Okay. So all the specifications are down.
Mhm.
We're basically matching the same specifications we had on everything else.
Yes.
Other than minor improvements that we live with through life.
Right.
Thank you, sir. When we expect to get those bids in?
Go to bid in about a month.
So you're gonna go to bid in a month?
Well, I take it back. It's advertising now, then it'll go up to review, for a number of days, because they have to prepare their bids. And then it'll come back come back to the parish before the engineering selection committee to review. So we're looking at about a month or so before it comes back to us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. Now, Bill, last meeting, you had said you'd put your schedule up on the web.
We looking at the format. The schedule I have is in Microsoft Project format, and we're trying to determine now if we're able to use that same format or if we're just going to go with a spreadsheet type format. And I'm working with the IT department. We're going to see what works the best, the easiest to update, and looks the best, the easiest for the public to access and understand.
Now, how
So-
long do you think that'll take?
Once we get it clarified exactly how we want it to look, it's just a number of days. So I would say before our next meeting, we should have
Okay.
something on the web.
On the Panama Bayou Conway, can you give me an update on the BFEs?
You talking about the survey of the,
What, for us to establish our own base flood elevation?
well, that's part of the process HNTB is working on, and it won't be until the end of the year before they come back with some recommendations on exactly the BFEs, on how it can change, and that's based on the model of all of East Ascension that they're working on. Right now, in conjunction with that, they're working on specifically the elevation or the model of Panama and Conway bayous. And that's a multi, project type evaluation being done. Because we're using that model, and that's why we had it, if you remember, I said we did something that we usually do not do for a model. We took the survey of Panama Conway every 200 feet, which is a lot more than you need for a model. Now, we're using that as the model for the BFE, or the modification of the BFEs as part of the LAMP process. We also using it to establish the problems within the two bayous, which is where the silt buildups are, where the problems are. And thirdly, we're using it to analyze a bigger project, which is a possible levee pump system below Sorrento. So that one model that they're doing for that area is really going to be used in 3 different types of evaluations, all different, all for a specific purpose.
You know, the last meeting, did I misunderstand, or did something change? Because you told me July.
That's when the model for the Panama and Conway will be, hopefully will be complete.
I thought that was specifically, I thought I'd ask about the BFEs.
The BFEs is part of the bigger project, the LAMP process project, which is something that is done parish-wide or in East Ascension District, everything on the east side of Ascension Parish. We're doing that process to establish a new, hopefully, new BFEs throughout the East Ascension Drainage District, or the east side of the parish. That's a much bigger process. The work that we're being done that we're going to get specifically for Panama and Conway, again, has to do with establishing the problems or finding out what problems we have in those 2 channels, and also toward an evaluation of a bigger project, which will be a levee pump system below Sorrento, which would go into a joint project with St. James Parish. So, no, what we're doing there is not going to establish new BFEs. The only thing it will do is give us a model of what's happening in that basin. The BFEs has to do with the LAMP process.
And so that's a year?
At least a year, yes.
And you talked about the levee alignment and with St. James. And so tell me about that. How far along is HNTB on that?
Well, that, again, is tied into that same model. The first thing they have to do, they're just completing the survey, the final survey of one section of Panama between Conway, where it ties into Conway and BFI. Got that one section left. Once they complete that, they give it over to the hydraulic people who run an H&H model of that whole basin. After that is done, then they start tying in alternates. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we enlarge the train trestle? And they have about 3 or 4 alternates. One of which even is, can we pump to the Mississippi River? Can we control it that way? And the other thing is, how about a pumping system with a levee, like similar to what we have in Henderson Bayou and Marvin Bro? All of these alternates are put in there and evaluated through the model, and they'll come up with a recommendation, a benefit cost, and a recommendation on what way we should proceed.
Well, how does that relate to the project that PLD is doing, the St. James Ascension Storm Surge project? How are those related?
As I understand, Burt Kleinpeter is contracted to do an evaluation within, a similar evaluation within St. James Parish.
It's my
Similar.
appreciation they were also authorized to do Ascension.
They were, in the initial, I guess, motion by the PLD, they were going to do a joint project between Ascension and St. James on an entire model of the Panama, Conway Basin, and what's happening in St. James Parish. We had already started our project evaluation with HNTB and with the surveys and everything else. So the Ascension Parish and the East Ascension Drainage District never did participate in that decision for BKI to do everything. And that's why BKI is just doing for PLD what's happening in St. James Parish, as I understand. Now,
Okay, so we had some meetings earlier this week, and it's my appreciation that PLD has agreed to pay the entire portion of that engineering for Ascension and St. James.
I think our portion of it was $400,000.
And from what I understand, they've agreed, or they told us this, that they've agreed to, that there would be, they wouldn't require us to pay that PLD would pay it.
I understood that they may be receptive to reimbursing us the cost that we're paying up to that amount of money to HNTV for what we incurred.
I can't understand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. President?
Excuse me, the meeting that I was in, Bill, the PLD said they contracted, and they had got with Mr. Martinez, and they contracted St. James and Ascension. And our portion, they said St. James had put up X amount, and they had wanted us to put up X amount, but because we do so much, they would pay for ours for nothing. And they said that we were under contract, and then Ascension went and hired the other company. So my thing is, if the PLD is going to pay for that alignment project, we need to get back with them and see what this company has done so far and pay them for what they did. But I mean, that was my understanding, Bill, in the meeting. I was, yeah.
Well, I understood that they were gonna, they could be receptive to giving us back the money.
They said that the board had voted to pay our portion of it to BKI, not the other company. And that's the way they left it with me, that we wouldn't have to put up a nickel if it stayed like that. So my deal is, I think to save $400,000, we need to make it a PLD project and let them do the alignment.
Well, that's my point is, I don't see why we duplicate the efforts.
We're not
And if we have-
duplicating anything that I
And we have one
know
that's
of.
free, why would we
Well,
not take advantage of
originally it
that?
was not free.
Well,
it-
okay, well, let's assume that it is now. Would you take advantage of it? Like my wife, I don't have that hard decision. to
Well,
make.
I do because, look, I'm responsible for what happens around here. And one thing that it really irks me is the fact that you ask us to solve a problem. We go out and get the best information we can to solve that problem. We rely on that information to be accurate. When we pay a lot of money to get some information that's not accurate, that upsets me. And that's what happened in this case. We're having to go back and redo the model of the Panama Conway, resurvey everything, because a engineering report model that's given to us is not accurate and not good.
Well, if they contract with PLD, that's their responsibility.
No,
is
it's
that
not. We still have to live with what they give us. You know, I'm trying to find out what's the problems in Conway, Panama. I've got to have accurate information that I trust to proceed. I can't go out there. In fact, if we're not going to do that, let's not have any engineering. They just say, let's just go do it.
Well, how you gonna get a permit? Come on now.
Now, I can write up enough stuff on a piece of paper to make it look good and send it in. I mean, you trust us, the administration, to do what we think is best. You got to allow us to do it. I've got to trust the information that is given to me.
Well, additionally, we as a board, we have responsibility.
That's right.
And as the governing authority of East Ascension Drainage, we have that responsibility to see that this is done frugally and efficiently.
And accurately.
I agree with that. So if you contract an engineering firm, you should assume that they're a capable firm. Now, I understand that some people have, they're bad jobs. I've done some myself. But, I still don't see why we're spending whatever we're spending to do the engineering when somebody else is doing it for us for nothing.
Originally, it was going to cost us $400,000, or their amount.
But it's not now.
Well, that is what changed over the last week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, 4 weeks. Originally, when we contracted it, we were looking at getting a better product at the same amount of money. And that was already something that is needed as part of the LAMP process. It's
Well,
something that was
I understand
needed.
this, and additionally, if you talk about the BFEs, I think that is ultra important to us in Ascension Parish, especially the people in my area. Because these things have changed capriciously, and we can't figure out why. I've come to all the organizations, and we can't figure that out. And they all tell us that the answer is Ascension Parish needs to establish their own base flood elevation. And so that could be reflected on the flood maps. And I'm seeing people's rates go from $300 a year to $2,000 a year, because of one change in paper. So myself personally, I would rather see the firm that we have contracted, HNTB, to concentrate on the BFEs and these other things that are in our immediate need, and let the PLD, who's already been contracted, let them go through this process to get ready to submit an alignment to the Corps. I mean, we're going to be involved in that process as it goes along.
And again, I'm repeating myself. The BFEs, the establishment of a new BFE firm maps for the parish is part of the LAMP process. To do that, HNTB has to do a complete model of the parish. As part of that complete model of the parish, they have to do the model of Conway, Panama, in addition to the model of New River, of Bayou Manchac, of all of the other bayous.
Do they have to do the levee alignment?
They don't have to,
Okay?
but they have to do the model. 90% of this is the model. The model tells you what you can do and cannot do, and should not do. They have to do the model. That's why we went to them and say, since you have to do it already, do it in a little bit more detail, which is 200 feet
Well,
instead of
it's
1,000 feet,
I don't mean to
and let's
interrupt,
get that.
but, you know, to do the base flood elevations, correct me if I'm wrong, but that has to be based on what the current system is.
It has
So
to
if
be,
if I'm gonna get a change to the base flood elevations within my area, then that has to be based on the current levee system and the current conditions.
it has to be based on data obtained through a model.
I understand that, but, you know, it's not gonna be based on this levee alignment that.
No.
Okay.
But, the second part of this is to the original concept of hiring these people. Now, you say, like, you're concerned with BFE. Look, we looked at this, and we saw where there was a problem 4 years ago, 5 years ago. That's why we started researching and went through an RFQ and hired these people through an RFQ to do this work because they'd done it in other places.
How long ago?
Yeah, we started this about 4 years ago.
And
For us, the
levy
process.
recertification.
Yeah, the process. Now, the levy certification or accreditation process has a lot of components to it. One of which, if we decide to go that route, the certification, recertification, and accreditation process, one of the things that's possible and probably likely is that we got to show closure of our system. A closure of our system means that it got to go from point A to point B with total protection under our control, not a road, not a railroad. Everything got to be under our control, from point A to point B, where you can't go around and get into the parish. Part of that, now let me finish, sir.
10 years?
Part of that process is what I said, closure, which means they got to evaluate the cost of doing the closure, which is closing the main part of that closure is from the existing Morganboro pump station to somewhere around the Mississippi River to close it up and see what the cost is. They got to add all of this costs up and to say, bring it back to the council and say, look, if you want to go full accreditation with your levies, you're going to have to do all of these things in addition to tying in this levee system through here, tying in maybe an additional levee system above Henderson Bayou. You're going to have to do all of this, and it's going to cost $2.5 million, $1 billion, or something like this. So they have to do all of this evaluation as part of their process. Now, what we're hoping to do through the LAMP process is get to the point before we go make the decision to go to the full accreditation, to say through the LAMP process, we got an adjustment of our BFEs down to an acceptable level. We got enough benefit from that to stop it right here. Because if we go further, it's going to cost us this much money. We don't have that much money, therefore we're going back to this. They have to get all of these numbers together, how they're going to do it, to give you the choice of going further with it or stopping there. So the levee system in that area, they would have to evaluate the cost of it, how it would be done, so they can tell you how much that full accreditation is going to cost you at the end. So it's
Okay.
still part of that whole system.
Well, listen, I appreciate your passion,
Yeah.
and I know that you're concerned about all this. You know, and myself personally, I feel like that the administration should pursue let HNTB redouble their efforts and work on base flood elevations and the levee certification, and let PLD do the levee alignment.
Mr. Dawson, I think you totally right on that. I think we need to save the taxpayers $400,000. The HMTV was not in a part of that alignment deal. We're just talking about an alignment from St. James, and it was given to the contractor, the engineering company to do St. James and Ascension. I think we need to go back to that contract and save $400,000 and get this other company to continue doing what they're doing.
Okay?
That's up to y'all. It's a drainage.
You have to put it as a motion, you have to vote to add it to the agenda, and you need to,
No, This is
Make
a
a
working meeting. We ain't doing that.
yeah, I mean,
Mr. Dawson, what you want to do with this is your area. What
I'll
you wanna
make
do?
that, I'll make that a motion.
you need to make a motion to add it to the agenda
Well,
item.
okay, I'll make a motion that we modify the agenda to add the discussion of Panama Conway and the levee alignment.
Ms. Heather?
You have to have a 2/3.
I'll offer a second so that we can move forward to a vote.
Okay.
Motion and a second. Ms. Heather, roll call.
What are we actually motioning for?
This is to change the agenda, to modify the agenda to add this item for consideration.
Okay. So what are we actually considering, I guess, so Ms. Heather can write it down properly? Considering removal of the contract from,
No, I would say to
we just need to make the
to
proper
participate with the Pontchartrain Levee District in the evaluation of a joint protection levee pump system between us and St. James Parish.
Did you get that?
motion. She get it.
I will
Okay.
tomorrow, but right now we just add it to the agenda, correct?
It's just add to the agenda
Right.
right now.
Okay,
What item, where are you gonna add that at?
I'd like to add it where we are.
6A.
I mean, this is a working meeting. I mean, we're coming around the table. We'll just put it as 6A.
6A. We have a second?
By Ms. Terry?
I gave him the second. Second, Ms. Terry, okay. Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Sadler?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler?
Yes.
Mr. Kluwat?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Escazo? Yes. Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Candelati?
Yes.
And Benny Johnson? Motion passed.
Okay, so now make a motion that we concentrate the efforts of HNTB on the base flood elevations and the levee certification, and we let the PLD do the levee alignment for the, it's called St. James Ascension Storm Surge Project.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
thank you. Just a point of order. It seems to me that we're going to have to finish with Mr. Rue's report by continuing going around to the councilman that haven't spoke, and then we'll get to 6A, and then we can entertain Mr. Dawson's most recent motion that he wants to do what he wants to do.
No, it ain't gonna work with me.
Okay.
But,
I'll withdraw the motion until it comes up on the agenda.
on the 6th, okay.
Thank you, thank you.
You finished,
I am.
Ms. Terry?
Yes, thank you, Bill, so much. I understand that the Frog Bayou project is in public comment period, is that correct?
Yes,
And
it is.
how do we monitor public comment period? Do we get feedback from that? This is my first one of those.
The Corps gets the information, and in some cases, they'll respond, back to us immediately. And in some cases, but it's not official until they send it to us at the end of the public comment period.
Okay, and how long is that public comment period?
30 days.
Okay. And so what also is our, where are we on land acquisition from Mr. Bonifay?
I'm in the process of modifying the first survey that we did. It's limited us to a portion of that property that I don't think is sufficient, so we're adding some additional area to it, and I'm getting it modified now. I talked to the surveyor last week. As soon as we get that, then we're gonna talk to the property owner one more time and see where we go. And I am also talking, Mr. Martin Cody is helping me with the legal end of it in case we can't get an agreement.
Okay. So if you'll tell me, I understand that we have a gentleman who works with us at the Corps, and his responsibility is to move these projects forward. This is a 214.
In fact, I talked to the Corps today about that too. They wrote one agreement. It went through their review process, a contract.
this
It was
214
kicked back to actually Mr. Herman, who's second in command of regulatory over there. Kicked back to him. He's under review. He's making a few modifications to it. He's hoping to have it done in the next couple of weeks. So he sent it to us for our legal review. So
That's
I'm
the
hoping
contract,
within.
the 214
Yes,
contract.
I'm hoping to have that resolved before the next meeting. He said he was gonna try to get it back to me within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All righty. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, I passed a few times on Highway 22 and hadn't seen anything on that bulkhead project. You know where the status? I know it's
Actually,
under contract. I know.
It was, and in fact, it's changed as of today.
Oh,
We had another contractor come in just recently, a week or 2 weeks ago. And he gave us a estimate of about the same amount of money that the board approved to do materials and labor. And it's actually with vinyl sheet piles. This guy's actually doing has a different technique that will not cause, should not cause any damage to nearby structures. In fact, he does a lot of work in Pelican Point. And that, we in the process of getting that contract put together as I speak. As soon as he signs the contract, then we'll notify the owner that we have a contract in place, and we'll give him a timeline on when it'll be done. I don't want to, and of course, if they look and they're gonna know already, but I don't want to give their hopes up and say that, we have somebody until he actually signs the contract, but I hope to get that done within this week. And he should better move on it within a couple of weeks.
Mr. Dawson, I know it's in your district,
Well,
but it's
I
a good
talked
partner
to-
of mine that.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Rue about it
Okay,
earlier.
good deal.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bill.
Okay.
Just a quick question. You said you'd get with me on that report on the Weir study this week?
Yeah, this week. I'm reviewing, I went through it, and I can tell you basically what it says. It says that if you're gonna do anything, if you want the level of the water in there, you need a weir. And if you want a weir and you want the level high, you want a weir, you need, the best kind of weir is one that can be opened up to allow a flow to go through it when you get a heavy rainstorm, because it would help to get some of the silt out, not all of it, but it would help. So they're not saying it's good or bad, they just say if you want a level in there. It's better, of course, that's obvious, you gotta have a weir. And if you're gonna have a weir, you need one that can be opened. It's better than one that's just stationary.
Like a
static.
floodgate structure? or something?
Right.
Okay.
Now, the next thing that we need to discuss is the BC on it, what it's gonna cost us. For a little bit of benefit, what kind of cost would it be? And we are in that process right now to try to come up with some kind of value of the project.
That's all.
Mr. John.
West Creek.
That is in the hands of our attorney right now. Mr. Cody is, Martin is,
Working on drafting a lawsuit to expropriate.
Yeah.
That's all we can do with that when they had so many heirs in that estate.
Kind of time frame we took in that, Cody?
Our next meeting, lawsuit should be filed, and then we just gotta get service out to everybody. That's gonna be a problem. Get the sheriff out and try to locate these people. Not everybody's located in Ascension, so I'd estimate the service is probably gonna take a little while to get everybody tracked down, but from there, we move forward.
Okay. And after that, everybody's notified?
And we just gotta push it through the court system. It just depends on, we gotta get a value of what the property's gonna be. Did y'all get that done already, Mr. Bill? I'm kinda late to the party.
yes, we have the value of the service, of the amount that's needed for servitude, and that's based on the appraised value they had when they had it up for sale. So we do have some of that information.
Okay.
Are we still
Probably.
trying to do this as just a temporary access servitude, or are we trying to
No.
go ahead and
No, we're trying to
acquire the
get-
property?
We're trying to acquire servitude.
Acquire servitude.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Johnson? You good? And I'd like to go ahead and add in, look, the last 2 weeks we have been meeting, I want to thank PLD. This is what happens when you get people together and learning all the projects. I think we're gonna have a good working relationship. So I really appreciate everyone attending the meetings and, looking at these projects. With that, you didn't have anything else on your report, Mr. Rue? We'll
No,
go to, 6A, alignment. A motion was made by Mr. Dawson.
You want me to make it again?
Shoot.
I've practiced on this, so it should be good. I wanted to move that we concentrate that Ascension, East Ascension drainage, concentrate on the base flood elevations and the levee certification, and leave the levee alignment for the St. James Ascension Storm Surge Protection Project to the Pontchartrain Levee District. And that's it.
Motion made by Mr. Dawson,
Second.
second by Mr. Turner. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed. We'll go on to number 7, the approval of a certificate of substantial completion. Mr. Rue?
Yeah, we're asking for approval of a certificate of substantial completion for the Manchac Drive drainage improvements, BJM Construction LLC.
So move.
We'll
It
move
is.
by,
I'll
moved by Mr. Lawler, second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. Number 8, approval of change order number 5. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, we're asking for approval of change order number 5, Manchac Drive drainage improvements, BJM Construction LLC. This is the balance and change order to close out the project, and there's actually a reduction of $12,620 in the contract price.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. And number 9, authorization to amend the 2015 BFI contract. Mr. Rue?
We're asking authorization to amend the 2015 BFI contract for creosote treated timber disposal from $10,000 to $25,500.
Moved by Mr. Cluett. Second by Mr. Johnson. Discussion, Ms. Terry?
Was this contract something that we had bid for?
Yeah, well, we had the price of $10,000 and toward the end of the year, but because of a couple of big projects, Village Road being one, we had a lot of additional creosote lumber that had to be pulled out and disposed of, and that caused the price it went over their contracted price of $10,000. So for finance to pay the bills of 2015, they need to increase it from $10,000 to $25,500 to pay the debt owed from 2015.
So for the public's knowledge, it would not have mattered if if another company had
Oh, no.
gotten this bid, we would have still had this
This-
increase in
this-
income.
This is an annual bid. It's an annual bid that we go out for, and BFA usually gets it because they have the place to dispose of the creosote lumber.
Thank you, that satisfies me, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any opposition? Not, motion passed.
Motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Lambert, Ms. Terry, motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Johnson. We adjourn.
Todd said he wants